Howdy, folks. I'm Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist, and today I actually have something to talk about. I have two somethings to talk about. I'm so excited! So I'm going to switch the camera, show you my details here real quick, and then we can talk about what I want to talk about. All right. Here we have the journal showing that. And then that. That and that. Okay. So basically what we're talking about here today, let me get this camera settled here. Boop, 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 boop. Not that quite settled. There we go, that's settled. All right. So what we're talking about here today is the nature of the 58th gate in particular and the 52nd gate on the other side. They're in opposition on the wheel. So 58 is Joyous Vitality, yay! And then 52 is this mountain stillness. So then the question comes, what is Joyous Vitality? And of course, I have that explanation that I've given before and always give about it's a feeling of being alive, that joy of being alive. Now, my question for a long time on this subject has been, what in the world does Joyous Vitality have to do with judgment? Because it's connected, this Joyous Vitality, the 58, to the 18 on the other side. 18 is focus on the broken. It's pretty obvious how that connects to judgment. The 18 is looking at something and judging. That's not right. That's not right. That's not right. But exactly what is the relationship between the 18 and the 58 to create judgment? And that is something that I'm just now starting to get my fingers into, and one of the things I want to discuss. So it has to do with the fact that that joyous energy, that vitality that's in the 58th gate or the 58th hexagram, because remember we are also always, when we talk about gates, talking about hexagrams, talking about these ancient definitions of aspects of what it means to be human. Yeah? And so, especially since I have this in the fourth line, I'm always wondering, how is that having to do with judgment, and what does that really have to do with being human? Well, we have something of an explanation here when we look to the line companion from Ra. Yeah, the Rave I Ching line companion. It's this huge book. You can't possibly swallow it in any small amount of sittings. I myself have been chewing on this book for at least 3 years now and still don't have all of it yet. So here we come. And I've read this before. It never struck me this way. I think I've read this whole book before, but it's one of the weird things about it that unless you have something to really fix your mind on the definition, the words can run right over you, and you cannot really get down into the deeper meaning of what's going on there. So let's look at this real quick. It says, all right, we're talking about gate 58. This is the pressure to bring out experimentation. All right. Now, when Ra is talking about the logical circuit, of which this is really the main power for, all right. So let me back up a little bit. Okay. We have logical circuitry in the body, which is all happening on this side of the body. Okay. And it's all having to do with finding patterns that can be proven to work and establish the future for ourselves so that we can, as a collective, as all of humanity, move forward into patterns that hold stability for us, that are doing good things for us in terms of leading us into the future and knowing what the future will hold for us. That's exactly what we're doing when we're looking at transits, right? We're looking at the logical progression of patterns that lead us into the future with stability. That's what we all want. When nobody wants an unstable future. We all want to be able to look at the future and say, aha, I see the pattern. I see how it can move us forward. All right. So this 58th gate right here is the pressure, because it's coming out of this root, which is all about pressure for life and energy for these processes. This is something that Ra talks about over and over again. He says the logical process in humans is starved for energy. All right. On the other side, experience, where you have the energy really going sort of in an underlying way towards sexuality, it has tons of energy because the emotional motor right there goes directly to the throat. Boom. That gets to the throat all the time. And so it's easy for that to get energy to be manifested. All right. But on this side, we have sitting at the other end of this channel, the mirrored channel to our experience channels here, our manifesting channels. The mirror is the spleen. It's an awareness center. It's not a motor. So we're talking about awareness. Awareness of logical patterns, awareness of risks, awareness of looking to the self to be able to integrate and upgrade and empower the self. But we're not talking about actual energy until you get all the way down here to the 58. So everybody's looking to the 58 to give them energy. It's energy to bring out experimentation. And here's the part that I had underlined before, but it just hadn't struck me properly. It says, it's a highly specialized energy available for logical experimentation to ensure a safe future for humanity. Okay, that's not the piece that I was missing, but that is what I've been explaining right here, okay? It permits repetitive experimentation. Here's the piece. This is the true beauty of life. Now that rings bells for me because as an aesthete, right, somebody who has power directly coming from the aesthete I think is the 57 to the 10. That's the aesthete's channel, which I have. So I'm very interested in the nature of aesthetics. What is aesthetics? And if you're watching my transits, you learned that aesthetics has a lot to do with the nature of beauty because there's a very close relationship between beauty and truth. Truth can be discovered logically, but apparently it can also be discovered intuitively. Yeah? So, it's talking about the beauty of life, and then he says real love. So real love, not like sexual love, but love. English does not have enough words for love, but we'll get to that later. Is the recognition of a pattern that provides security for the totality. And, I was saying that the underlying energy going this way is sexuality. The underlying energy going this way is caring. Right? Because that's what's happening in these channels here. The 59 over to the 6 is the energy for sexuality, but the 27 over to the 50, that's the energy of caring and nurturing. So there's something about the logical stream that is caring for people. And the energy to truly care for people, to truly care for humanity, is provided in the joyous vitality that says, let's experiment. Let's find out where we can find the logical and stable patterns that will lead us into the future. That is so friggin' cool. I love that. And it gave me a whole new appreciation for myself. And that's really one of the things that human design is meant to do for us, is to allow us, in truly understanding ourselves, to access a true love for ourselves. And that's the beauty of what happened to me when I was studying this. I realized that this feeling that I have, that I experience as, I love it when I get to be with other people, because in me it's a fourth line thing, so it's very fixed. I want to be with other people, and when I get to meet other people, it makes me so joyous. That's why when you see me at a fair, I'm so happy. I'm so happy because there's all these people walking by, and any moment one of them might go, "Oh, you look a little interesting. I think I would talk to you." And then as soon as they say I would talk to you, I would go, "Yes, that's what I'm here for. I love that. Let me talk to you. Let me explain something to you. Let me provide energy for your experimentation into logical patterns so that together we can establish a secure future for everyone." Ta-da! And that's also why sometimes when I'm sitting here alone in the basement, just studying and being alone and doing my transits and doing this routine detail work that happens both in the 52, which we'll talk about next, and in the 62, which is the attention to detail for the sake of forming opinions, I seem to lose some of that joyous vitality. That joyous vitality doesn't come out unless there's somebody on the other side of it. And with nobody on the other side of it, it's sitting there doing fuck all. And really it is sitting there doing fuck all because I don't have that root defined. So unless something comes through in the transit that defines that root, my joyous vitality might as well not exist. There it is. It's nothing. It's nothing. And my ambition is nothing. And my ability to have new beginnings is nothing. And my ability to sit still and concentrate is nothing. All of the activations that I have coming off of that root center are nothing until that root center gets fired. And it gets fired when I get together with other people, and sometimes it gets fired by the transit. And of course, in association with my partner, it gets fired because he has a connection to the root through his channel of struggle. And of course, when we get together, he's got that 18 on the other side of the 58. So I give him energy to focus on the broken and experiment with patterns and test them for their rightness. And this is part of why every time I come up with all my intuitive ideas about the way the world works, the first thing I encounter is, focus on the broken. I don't know about this pattern. I think there may be something wrong with it. Which is good. It's good. It's just that I think I'm not meant to be focusing exclusively on running my energy in this way. Yeah. And because I've had so much of my energy blended together with this energy over the past 12 years, it has become in some ways stale. And I need definitely to move on and see other people, and not necessarily not to be associated with this person, because this person is a wonderful human and I like him and love him very much and want to be associated with him on some level for the rest of my life. But does that mean that I want to be associated with him when I'm out in the world every minute of every day? No. There's part of that in me always that's going to have that third line theme of bonds made and broken. I need to go away so that I can come back sometimes. And so sometimes people see in us this push and pull, this tension between us when we're together, and they think, that's not a good couple. But what they're really seeing is one end of a tensile relationship where it gets tense, I need to leave and break. And then when I break, I go off and have different experiences. I experience that joyous vitality coming into the world in a different way, and then I can come back together and have wonderful experiences with this energy again. So that's the lovely thing that is there for me. Of course, I particularly am line 4 in 58, yes, and that is about focusing. A natural specialization that when confronted with a multiplicity of stimulations will have no inner difficulty in focusing on the appropriate influence. That is, of course, the exaltation, which I do not carry all the time. Sometimes I will also live out the detriment, which is... Let's see. Oh, before I get to the detriment, let me read this little piece. The energy is really for being able to experiment with a pattern that challenges authority. And that's where we get the connection to the 18. The energy to experiment with a pattern that challenges authority. So my energy is coming from a place of love for humanity, caring for humanity, and also wanting to challenge authority. And I very much have this desire in me to challenge authority. So much that for a while I was really wondering, like, it feels like almost a provocative energy that I have, but I have no 39th gate. Although I have been, of course, handling the provocation that comes from receiving the energy of provocation from my partner. But the actual energy of provocation is not in me. The detriment, here is an impressionability that becomes confused with a multiplicity of stimulations, and in trying to accommodate all of it becomes unstable. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that, especially in some of my power-ups. I'm, in those times, handling a lot of things, juggling a lot of balls, and I think that there is no doubt amongst the people who are witnessing that that energy, that there is instability in the pattern at that time for me. I'm working on that. I really am, and thinking that the more wise I become about how to handle my energy in these power-up times, the better that's going to be, because I'm going to consciously restrict my focus on things that actually come to me instead of me going out to engage with the world. Very important for me. Very important for me. All right, now I want to come to 52 and talk about that energy some, because I have a lovely quote from Ra that I want to give in this. And I want to have a little talk about perversion. And the reason I want to have a little talk about perversion is because 52, line 2 in the journal. Okay, 52, line 2 in 64 keys. They have renamed it to be consideration. But Ra, he called it perversion. And I want to talk about why that is. And in general, this subject of renaming gates that happens. And I have said, I'm not opposed to the renaming of gates. 64 Keys does it, and I do think that there is value in doing it, because I do think that we don't need to always be pissing people off. Now, what Ross says about it when he's talking about this 52, and specifically about 52 line 2, which is the gate of, oh, well, he doesn't really call it perversion, does he? Wait a second. Let me find where that is. 52, self-discipline, explanation, peacefulness. Where is the perversion? Maybe the perversion was over in the 58, in which case we can not talk about it until we get over there again. Let me double check here if it's the 58 that's sitting in, because it's sitting somewhere. I just read through it again. Blah, blah. Oh, it is. Yeah, it's 58.2, not 52.2. Okay, so to explain, 58 is Joyous Vitality. You have all kinds of versions of it, right? Okay. So they don't call it consideration. They call it unusualness. Gotcha. Let me fix that in the diary here. Perversion goes to that one up there. All right. And what the perversion is talking about, we're in the second line. And in the second line of all of our 64 gates or hexagrams, we're talking about a natural energy that comes out without thinking, without reflection, without research or experimentation. It's just naturally, almost giftedly coming out. And the energy that's being projected out by a 58.2 is, I have the energy for the experimentation, right? The experimentation with the pattern. I was just talking about this. And what happens is other people see that as a carte blanche, as an open card that they can write on. Oh, you have energy for experimentation? Well, let me bring you my freaky and weird ideas. And so these people are projecting out and projected upon that they have the energy for experimenting with anything. Anything goes. And so they do have within that range the ability to experiment with freaky shit. And that's where you get perversion. And Ross said about that we have to, I say this constantly, remove judgment, because there is no judgment happening in human design. By design, specifically, judgment has to be stripped from the terminology. However, this line of perversion is a difficult one to strip that meaning that comes from society off of, because society places such a heavy weight and burden of judgment on that kind of experimentation. And he says, there's a lot of people who sit around trying to rename gates and to take the shock factor out of them. 64 keys is among them. And as I've said, I don't have a problem with renaming some of the gates, as long as the original intention of the line is either maintained or strengthened. And you can get to it by saying it's unusualness, because unusual things are going to be given energy by this second line of the 58th gate. But he says, if you have a problem with the line, and you as a reader of Human Design are trying your best to rephrase it so that you don't piss somebody off, you might want to take a minute to think about what it is in you that is feeling so uncomfortable about that line that you feel that you need to change it. Aha, there we have a key. Because if we don't sufficiently strip judgment out of it, then of course we're going to feel uncomfortable telling somebody you have the line of being perverted. But if you explain to them what it means in this context, then Ra says, and I agree, you're going to get nothing but agreement from those people, because you're describing their life to them. You're going to say, there's all kinds of people coming to you and wanting your energy to fund a logical process in a certain kind of way that's possibly way out there. And they're going to go, oh yeah, people all the time come to me and want me to give energy to all kinds of weird, bizarre kinds of experimentation. They're just going to understand that because they're carrying that energy. So of course they're going to feel that. That's the way that goes. So they're not going to be offended by calling it perversion, unless there's something that's out of balance in them, and, well, then that's their problem. We must always remember that there is no judgment in human design, no matter what those terms are, whether they're good or bad. There's not a judgment on it. So you can put your own flavor of judgment on it, but at some point you got to back that shit up and remember every single road has a guardrail on either side. And that's exactly what the light and the shadow, or the exaltation and the detriment, are all about. They're just guardrails on either side of the road. And when we have, let me see if I have an easy copy of this around somewhere. Maybe. This one may be a little bit confusing, but let me see if I can use this to explain what I'm talking about. You have to excuse some of the junk on this because I'm doing a concordance between Chinese astrology and the I Ching and human design and all that together. So that's what this is for, but that's not the point that I'm wanting to show you. The point that I'm wanting to show is right here on the wheel, where we see within each gate we have 6 lines. See the little tick marks there that show the individual lines? Well, just like every gate has a first line and a 6th line to show the edges of that energy, within each one of those individual 6 lines there is also edges to the energy. The energy flows within a certain rhythm while it's staying inside of that boundary, and those boundary markers is exactly what's happening in the up and the down, the this and the that, the shadow and the detriment. So anybody who has anything is going to be aware or familiar with what it's like to go to either side of their energy. Yeah, that's why when I was reading you about the 58.4 that I carry, this energy right here, the Joyous Vitality, I read the exaltation and the detriment, or the light and the shadow, so that you could see these are the edges of this energy. Here's the boundary markers, or the guardrails of this little track of the highway. We will go back and forth at different times between those, unless we have a specific arrow marked on the chart. And if we have a specific arrow marked on the chart, that means we will have a tendency to go specifically to one side or the other, to the up or the down, the light or the shadow. Now, it doesn't mean you can't ever go to the other side. It just means you're going to have a tendency to always kind of be bumping up to that end of the energy spectrum. So 58.2 perversion has a large energy spectrum. That's what I'm saying. All right, now we come and look at 52, because this is the other energy gate for the logical process. There's only 2 of them. Here they are: the 58, the Joyous Vitality, and the 52, Joyous Vitality over here, 52, Mountain Stillness. That leads to 9, that focus or attention to details, small details, the small taming power. So what happens is the 58, the Joyous Vitality, that's the active energy coming out of the root. The 52, passive energy. So everybody wants the 52 to be the 58 because they really, really want that energy to be funded into the identification with skills and answers and leadership and patterns being established for the future, because that's where all the left brain part of society is. But the 52 is not built like that. It's not meant to do that. It's not ever going to do that. All it does really is sit there like a Buddha under a tree and imagine the best way for shit to get done. It's the energy to sit still and concentrate. That's mountain stillness. So Ra uses the example of someone sitting under a tree and imagining the best way to plow the fields, while everybody else is going out there and going, but we got to plow the fields. We're plowing the fields, and that person is over there just fucking doing nothing. But what they are doing is, if they have access to that 9 in some way, they're focusing on the best way for it to be done. And then in the right time, they will blurt out the pattern in the 5, which leads to the rhythm, which leads to the role, which leads to the leadership. Which is to say that these are the only 2 kinds of energy that are funding or supporting the energetics for logic in the world. One's passive, one's active. Interestingly enough, I have both of them, but I can understand how it is that in that passiveness, there is an approach from other people wanting it to be active. And luckily for me, I can switch from 52 into 58 when that root center is being fired and say, okay, you want it active? Here it's active. When it's not active, it's being passive. And what it's doing in my line in being passive is explaining. The 5th line is about explanation, which comes in handy for me, because what that means is that this explanation capacity that I have is really supported by that 52, by the ability to sit around when nothing else is happening and concentrate and focus on the details and study in a very minute way in order to be able to explain myself. And this is useful because I have a lot of things to explain. And not good things either. I mean, some good things, but a lot of the people that know me very well think of me as someone who has a lot of explaining to do, because I've done some really weird and on the surface of it unexplainable shit. And they're like, why? Why, Rebecca? Why did you have to go out there and do that weird shit? Why did you have to go be arrested? Why did you have to go stop those cars in traffic? Why did you have to have a fight with a garbage truck? Why did you have to do all this weird shit that seems crazy and completely unsupportable? And it's a gift of mine to be able to use the time when I'm sitting around in quiet to formulate my explanations for why, so that at some point in the future, I will be able to pull all those things together in an explanation that can make everybody happy and everybody can see, oh, okay, I understand. There was a larger purpose for that kind of weirdness. There was a larger purpose for that experimentation, for that challenge of authority that was going on, so that beauty and truth could come together in one, and we could have in the end a true, reliable pattern for the future. Yeah? And then we come to this lovely quote that I want to give at the end of the 52 when Ra is talking about 52 line 6. That's the line of mountain stillness that is no longer in the hexagram because it's really focused on the next hexagram. Now, in this case, the next hexagram is 39. Provocation! Hey, hey! And we're getting there on Wednesday. Woohoo! But, or is it Thursday? Let's see. It will be Wednesday, New Year's Eve, that the provocation energy comes in. So, anyway, before I give this quote, I want to talk a little bit about peace. Specifically because in this last MeWe fair, peace became a huge subject for me, as I had a really awesome handprint reading from a woman named Leslie. I can't remember the rest of her name. I'm sure it'll come up again later. She's awesome, though. Totally recommend her. I'm totally looking forward to learning more about her process and her wisdom because she's awesome. She's from the Seattle region. She's up where they're having all that flooding and rats coming out of the toilets and shit. Weird. Anyway, peacefulness. She said that I have on my hands 8, all 8 of these, not my thumbs. I have these arches that are specifically about peace. And what she said that means is that I am meant specifically to be a peaceful revolutionary, peacefully living peacefully in the world this time. And I think I said this in one of my recent videos about how, about the peacefulness, and about how this friend that I was with said that we were warriors in a closely related fractal life. And so it's really, I never thought that much about the ideas of peace before, but they're really starting to sink in. And then I come back and study 52 again with this whole idea, and I realize that the absolute highest place, when that mountain stillness gets truly embodied, it's not a volcano. It's a peaceful, still mountain. So me going out and doing all this weird shit on my power-ups is not actually me being peaceful. It's me being volcanic, and that needs to end. And this is why I think I can say with some authority to my partner and all the people who worry about me in power-ups, hey, I don't think you do need to worry anymore, because I've learned the lesson, I think, time will tell, that I'm not meant to be out there exploding. I'm not meant to be out there doing things that are radical, revolutionary wildness, That's not to say that I might not take off my clothes, because that's always on the table. But the titties of justice only really need to come out in a peaceful way. I have actually done that before, and it has been witnessed. My partner did not love that experiment, but I went into that experiment because he said I had to go to the hospital. He didn't say I had to, but I offered him the choice, and I said, I don't need to go to the hospital. But if you really, really want me to go to the hospital, I'll go to the hospital, and we'll have an adventure there. And he said, yeah, I think we should go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital, and we had an adventure where my shirt came off, and the police got called. And when the police got called, they said, can't do anything about it because she's doing not a rebellion, a protest. In Portland, for sure, and I think Oregon, it is legal to take your shirt off if you're protesting. Ha 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 ha. That means all I have to do is have a justification. And I have a long, long history of providing justification, so that's no problem for me. And as long as I don't mind showing off the titties of justice, maybe some justice can be achieved. However, there might also be an easier way to do it. The titties of justice is sort of a last-ditch effort, I think, really, so you don't need to be worried. You're not going to see the titties of justice in any normal setting. But I also have to say, it's amazing the power of a set of boobies. Like, we see boobies so often on TV, all the time. No power whatsoever. But in real life, you bring out the titties of justice, wow. There's power there. There's a lot of power there for change. And I've seen other people using the skin of their bodies, women, to provide that same kind of provocation to society, that same energy for experimentation in challenging authority. Very interesting. All right, so peacefulness, very interesting idea, and it's interesting to see that it shows up not only in this 6th line, but in a lot of 6 lines. Because when you get to the 6th line, you see that there's a lot of desire for peace in the world. And those 6 line beings and the 6 line energy that we're going to be feeling as a planetary consciousness, society, moving forward, is going to be focused towards peace in a way that is very much not right now. Hopefully that will make a difference in all this warmongering that's happening among the boys, yes? The quote. I do not let me back up a little bit here because I have a part of it underlined, but okay, here we go. The peacefulness in the format in this 6th line is what the magic of the logical process can be. If we really figure out the pattern, if we really figure out logically what the formula is, right? The formula, ta-da, up here. Again, that's the beginning of the logical process up there. If we really figure out what the formula is, maybe, just maybe, we can all live in peace together. Now, isn't that really the ultimate goal, to live in peace together? To not need titties of justice. Hey, hey. That may be my illusion or delusion about the nature of the human design system. I do not separate myself from the energy of its time, but it seems clear to me that part of our work is that when we come to a point of understanding the basic mechanic of things, that we are no longer ignorant of our nature. I said that already. Or the nature of the world. That's where I think the real power comes in, because you learn about the nature of yourself by learning human design, but in doing so, you also learn about the potential nature of all humans. You learn about the nature of the world. That's an amazing amount of power to have in the world, to no longer go through the world with a feeling of, I don't really know what the fuck is going on. All I have is awareness of confusion, and I'm trying to make sense of it. And I'm going around having all these weird experiences and crises, and everything's happening, but I can't really understand it. To a point of, oh, that's logical. That makes sense. I see a pattern. Okay. And now, boom, I can set this pattern into the future. That's what transits are for. Understand the nature of the world. It will lessen the burden of life on us. Yeah. And we bring a much deeper peacefulness to our being. Drop the fucking microphone on that. Peacefulness to our being. What a nice goal to have. I love that idea. Now, I am getting ready to go on the road, do some traveling. And when I'm traveling, I just don't know where I'm going to go, what I'm going to be doing. I'm thinking about spending a week or so at a campground doing nothing whatsoever. And if that is the case, then I will not be doing transits until I come out of the woods. So if you don't hear from me for a while, that's what's happening. But I will come back. And my plan at this point is to continue doing transits at least until the beginning of February, and maybe even beyond. Who knows? I don't know. Of course, these transits are, while they are reporting on the ongoing energy, and to some extent, at least in this one, to the energy moving into the future, there's, I think, a lot of other things going on as well. You know, we have basic instruction on what's going on in human design, and also my own experiences, my own design being explained for you so that you can see both who I am as a teacher and what things we might carry in common. There's reaching out to my own niche crowd, which I'm realizing is not for everyone. I thought for a while that I was meant to be trying to reach as many people as possible, but in studying my design and in design in general, I realized that a lot of the things that I am teaching are not for everyone. The depth of the information, it's theoretically for everyone. It's for everyone who wants it, but that's the whole thing. Not everyone wants it. Not everybody wants to be engaged that deeply in what's going on in humanity. And this leads to something that happened to me. It's happened a couple of times, actually, when I've been giving design readings to people, and I say something to the effect of, because I think it's true, I'm getting to the point where I'm learning an awful lot about an awful lot, and I'm starting to look for people who know more than I do so that I can expand my wisdom even further, have even less questions about what's going on in the world. It comes up with this wanting to learn how to read hands and palms and prints and all that sort of thing. That's fascinating. But really, that's just another road to Rome. You know, just like Chinese astrology, you can get an awful lot about what's going on in people from Chinese astrology, and of course from the I Ching itself. But my point is not that I think learning about reading handprints is going to materially expand my understanding of the universe. But I am looking in general for people who have a better understanding of the whole entire universe than I do, so that I can fill out my understanding of the universe, so that I can make the studies that I'm doing into things that I don't hear anybody else talking about more robust. Yeah, establishing patterns for the future. My personal area of study is not actually human design. It's walking consciously, intentionally through the different reality streams and understanding what value there is in being able to manipulate those reality streams consciously. There's lots and lots of people out there talking about this from a real airy-fairy kind of way, but I've seen signs that it can be done mechanically, and I want to know about that. So that's what I'm really studying. And part of it is just an intellectual exercise, but part of it is because my own focus is to have conscious control over my body, my temple. So it's a 48 or 46 gate theme that I'm talking about here. And it's about being able to provide answers for other people, which is a 48th gate, which I don't have myself, but I am getting in reflection from my partner there. So I'm looking for answers. I'm looking for all the rest of the answers that have been posed in my fourth line, Youthful Folly, to reduce the number of questions and find answers that can be explained to everyone so that the whole entire world can have security and safety and peace in the patterns ahead. Yeah, well, enough on that now. So, long story short, when you get another video, that's when you're going to get another video. And until then, I'm going to be still doing my homework, experimenting, and traveling out into the world looking for joyous vitality. And the important piece that needs to be added onto that is, if you would like me to come visit you, if you are anywhere in Oregon or Washington of the United States, and you would like to see me, like to have me come visit, like to come have me share my knowledge and information with you, by all means, go to my website, jollyalchemy.com, where you will find my email. Send me an email, contact me, and we can set it up, because I'm going to be on the road. I'm going to be looking for places to hang out, places to feel my joyous vitality and spread it around to others. So if you'd like to have a visit from the Jolly Alchemist and have a rip-roaring time while we discuss all the answers to all the questions of the world, let me know. Until later, until the next time I see you, ciao.